Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Luke Dhume, and this is the fourth episode of the Luke Dhume Show. Remember, I'm doing this show because I'm running for Congress in the year 2030. If you want more information about that, check out my first video. It should be pinned by the time I release this, but if it's not, it's just the first video I released. Make sure you watch that. It's a bit of a shorter show this week. I was on spring break from school, so I didn't do a lot of show prep, but we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about all this war with Iran, this ongoing war. I did a major breakdown of it last week. If you didn't watch that, make sure you go check it out. But this is just going to be some updates, and then we're going to talk about a few other major news stories that have came out this week. So with this war, okay, so United States continues the bombing campaign. Iran is continuing its retaliation strikes with their missiles, okay, and they're striking countries all over the Persian Gulf, all over the Middle East, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Kuwait, Jordan, Iraq, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Cyprus, and Israel, and United States bases all over there. Some other countries are starting to get involved. There's not like too much pressure or anything going on right now. Other countries are starting to take a notice to this. And a main reason that other countries are starting to take a huge notice of this is because of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so if you don't know, the Strait of Hormuz is basically a little sliver of water in between Iran and the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And that's where all the major global oil, 20% of the entire globe's oil, all passes through there, okay? And that's closed right now because if any ships go through there, Iran blows them up, okay? They blow them up with their missile strikes. And they said, I think this week, they said that they were going to start mining the place with sea mines. That way, if they don't get hit by the missiles, they're going to get blown up by mines. But it's closed right now, so none of the oil can get out. So oil is raised to over $100 per barrel because it's on a global market. It's raised to over $100 per barrel this week. And I'm sure you've seen the gas prices in your own area go up. I mean, like our gas prices around where I'm at have raised like over $1. Okay, they were like $2, lower $2, almost $1 and something. Now it's like $3.45, $3.49, and there's really no end in sight, okay? The United States talked about giving some insurance for the tankers lost because nobody else will insure them. The United States government said they might start insuring the tankers, but even if they do, the crew is going to die if their ship gets blown up. So nobody, I think there was one ship that tried to go through the Strait of Hormuz, and it got blown up. And so, yeah, that's like a pretty major thing that's going on. And it's really putting the pressure on the United States to de-escalate, okay? But at the same time, the brand new Ayatollah of Iran was just instated. And it was Khamenei's son, okay? And his dad was killed in these bombing runs. His wife and all of his children were killed. So it's a guy, he's alone in the world, he has no family left pretty much. A lot of his military and a lot of his friends have all been blown up. So if you think this guy is going to capitulate to the United States more than the last guy was, then you're crazy, okay? And remember what I said in the last show, that the only reason that Iran does not have a nuclear bomb already is because they were complying with the United States' demands to not have one because they didn't want a regime change war. But now, since there already is a regime change war going on, they're probably going to accelerate their development of nuclear capabilities. And if the Iranian regime gets a nuclear bomb because of this, because they've accelerated their production, and if they get it under Trump, it would be one of the biggest disasters of this century, at least, of like a military campaign. And that is a real threat, okay? Because they're not showing any signs of bringing this down. And the United States isn't showing any signs of bringing this down either. The approval rating is in the toilet, okay, for Donald Trump and this administration. The approval rating for this war starting out was at the bottom of the barrel, and it's only gotten worse since then. And I hear people talking about, they're like, this war is about Epstein file cover-ups, or it's about stopping China, or it's about anything else. I mean, while there may be some truth in the timing of that, trying to cover up the Epstein files with the war, with the oil not getting out, it's not getting to China because, it's not going into the Indian Gulf and everything else. But you got to understand, you got to remember what Marco Rubio said a couple weeks ago, which I said in my show last week. He said that the reason that we struck Iran preemptively is because Israel was going to have a strike, and then American troops in bases in the Middle East would have died because of that, because we're allied with Israel, and they see us as one and the same. And that is the reason why this war started. That is the reason why we were drug into this, another war in the Middle East. And now it looks like, from what the admin is saying, from what Pete Hegseth is really pushing for, and from what people are talking about and preparing for, is that we're going to actually have boots on the ground in the coming weeks. Because, like I said, everyone is more radicalized than they ever were in Iran, okay? So if you think that they're just going to roll over and die, then they're not, okay? They're increasing their missile production. They're increasing their underground bases. They're probably working on a nuclear bomb right now. And the only way that the United States is going to be able to get out of this is by a total regime change war. So we are up the creek without a paddle. We're up the Strait of Hormuz without a paddle, okay? And the pressure is only going up, and it's only going to get worse from here. With the 20% of the entire world's oil stuck sitting in this little peninsula, there is risk for a major global recession coming. And that's going to be major, major, major financial problems for everybody. And I said, 3 weeks ago now, that this war was not a good idea, that we should not go to war, that we don't need war, that we needed to negotiate out of this. And here we are. Okay, what is it? Iraq 2.0, Afghanistan 2.0. Just another regime change war. We're about to have boots on the ground in Iran in the next couple of weeks, the next couple of days maybe. But we'll have to see what happens. Those are the major updates in the war. Yeah, they got a new Ayatollah. The Strait of Hormuz is blocked up. They're still blowing everybody up. United States is still blowing them up. Trump has laid no end game to this war. He's said no strategy. He's made no defense of it to Congress or to the American people. He said, we're almost done and we're going to hit him harder than ever. He's saying two completely different things, okay? People are calling it a war. People are calling it a conflict. People are calling it strikes, whatever. Nobody knows what's going on. It doesn't look like there was a plan going into it. There doesn't look like it's a plan now. And from what it looks like right now, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. Okay? We'll have to see what happens. But I'll keep you updated. Make sure you stay tuned for new updates about the show. Okay, so the SAVE Act is our next story. Again, I was excited to talk about it in the show, but there are no updates just like there were last week. Except John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, said he's going to bring it to the floor next week. Okay, so that's good news, maybe. Because here's the deal, what I talked about last week. Right now, there is a silent filibuster, okay? And to break the silent filibuster or whatever, and to take it, to pass the vote, you need 60, a supermajority, okay? 60 out of the 100 votes. Senate Republicans, I think, have 53 or 54 right now. And if you bring it to a talking filibuster, then at least 51 senators have to be in the chamber 24/7, okay? And there only has to be one, maybe two Democratic senators in the chamber at that time, and they just got to keep talking, okay? They just got to keep talking, and there has to be 50 or 51 because of the majority in the Senate for the Republicans because they're going to have to vote on the amendments and stuff like that anytime that it gets tabled. So that's kind of the rock and the hard place that the Senate's in right now. But here's the deal. If there is a Republican White House, a Republican House of Representatives, and a Republican Senate, and you can't even pass voter ID legislation, then what the freak is the point of voting for Republicans in the first place, okay? That, like, we need this. This is a major, major groundbreaking piece of legislation that is going to require identification to vote. And if they can't get this passed, it's completely ridiculous and pathetic. And that's what everybody's saying. Everybody's like, we need a different Senate Majority Leader. Who knows? But he said he's going to bring it to the floor next week. Okay? And a major breaking story that had just came out today, I'm not going to report about it too much because I don't know that much about it, is a synagogue was, like, somebody crashed into it and just started blasting, like, and it's very, very sad, and it's an absolute tragedy. I don't know that much about it, so I'm not going to talk about it very much, but things are coming out about it, and there's a lot of different things coming out, so I'm not going to say anything because I don't know the straight up facts. But it is a tragedy, to say the least. It's very, very sad, and prayers to the people who have lost their family members. Pray for the people who have gotten injured. Pray for everybody involved in that situation. And so we're gonna finish it out with the casualties in the war right now. The United States, 9 people have now been killed, 9 servicemen, and 170 injured at least. Iran, again, it's kind of hazy because we don't exactly know. Over 1,200 injured, or 12,000 injured. 1,200 to 4,200 are killed. In Lebanon, there have been 687 confirmed deaths and 1,444 injured. Iraq, there have been 59 killed and 78 injured. Israel, 19 killed, 2,745 injured. UAE, 12 killed and 131 injured. Kuwait, 8 killed and 99 injured. Bahrain, 3 injured and 38, or 3 killed and 38 injured. Saudi Arabia, 2 killed and 12 injured. Oman, 1 killed and 5 injured. Qatar, 0 killed, 16 injured. France, 1 killed, and it just says several have been injured. Europe's getting into this now. Jordan, 0 killed and 19 injured, and Azerbaijan, 0 killed and 4 injured. Again, there's been so much bloodshed, American servicemen versus brave patriots have died for this useless war of aggression that could have been prevented with diplomacy. But yeah, that's pretty much the show that we have for today. I'm going to read, a piece of scripture that has spoke to me this week. If I can find it. I can never find the book of Job. Kind of a rough week for me on the farm. We had a calf. We had to pull it, and then it died. So it was very sad. And, not nearly what Job has gone through, but, in hard times, it's good to look to Scripture, and it's good to look to people who have went through situations in Scripture to find comfort and to find solace. This is after Job, his whole family had died, all of his animals died, all of his barns were destroyed and everything else. It says in Job 1, starting in verse 20, then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell upon the ground and worshipped and said, naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Again, these are some rough times that we're living in right now with the war and with economic volatility and people dying and everything else and unrest going on in the world. But we must remember that our lives are in the hands of the Almighty, and we got to have faith in Him. We got to trust in Him. If you haven't put your faith in Him, make sure you do that pronto, or at least look into it, for your sakes. All right, well, everyone, you have a great week. The tariffs episode, it didn't release last week. It should be releasing in the middle of the week, this coming week. And I will see you next time. Thank you, and everyone have a great day. Oh, yeah. Dhume 2030. Gotta remember that. U.S. House of Representatives.